Jean Martin Lumpkin joins me, president of TTUTA, to address some of the concerns. Obviously, we also via the news cycle, what took place in the city yesterday, causing the suspension, early dismissal of students and school administration there at Southeast Port of Spain. And I want to ask Mr. Lumpkin, obviously, a very serious question this morning, but I'll get to that. Let me again, as always, say thanks for coming on. Thanks for the time. Great to see you.
Good morning, Mr. Williams, and good morning to your viewers. It's always an honor and a privilege to be on your program. And so TTUTA will take the time out as much as possible to be on your program so that we can air our concerns and hopefully successes in the future.
Indeed. You know, I may ask, based on yesterday's happening, and it's not the first time we would have heard or seen incidents via Southeast Port of Spain. I myself would have done some lessons there back in the 90s, and I can safely tell you, I recall distinctly, you know, even back then, leaving school, different characters you have to negotiate and pass around. I remember the first time I saw a man actually taking narcotics, smoking with a pipe, was right to the side of the school. And we're talking here, this is 1995, Mr. Lumpkin. I'm talking here from the heart. This is what I would have seen with my own eyes. And I remember it was a kind of jolting experience. A socially displaced man, obviously, and he was there in the vicinity of the school. Is there any conversation at all about probably moving the students, relocating, you know, having a whole overhaul? Because clearly you can't change the area overnight. But students and administration, they again go to the space, and incidents like yesterday, it's not something new. We would have seen that time and time again, and we don't want a scenario where a stray bullet enters the school and, God forbid, takes the life or harms teacher or student. Where are we concerning that bigger conversation, Mr. Lumpkin?
Well, sorry, as you would have said previously, this is not a new incident, and it's not a new topic when it comes to Southeast Port of Spain. When I was in office 10 years ago, we had the same conversation. Actually, a stray bullet did enter the compound. Thankfully, no one got injured, no one got hurt or was killed. And this is the sad thing, that the school does human service. It's a high-performing school. It will provide education to the residents of the East Port of Spain, some persons from Laventille, etc. And so they have proven, the school has proven as an institution that it is providing the service necessary for the children and for the residents of this area. To move them out would be a disservice because of the violence and crime that is taking place in the community. So the same community that it is serving is sometimes backlash the school gets. And we are very, very concerned that should we move the school, then the persons who really need the education, they will not be able to access that sort of education. And over the past, we have been putting plasters on sores. We have not looked at the deeper root to crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago. And so in the past, we would have had a police post outside, would have had the presence of the TTPS. And when things seemingly calm down, then they are removed. And rightfully so, they are understaffed, and their manpower is not what it should be. And so they have to dedicate to other areas as well. And so we constantly look at just having the presence of law enforcement. And this is throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Have we really sat down and said, look, this is affecting every one of us, no matter which class, creed, political affiliation. We should not have crime and criminality used as a political football. TTUTA is calling on the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the opposition to come together and let us tackle crime in a holistic manner, not just giving more resources to law enforcement, to the judiciary, and to the penal system. But let us look at what is taking place in our communities. Why are we having so much incidents? Let us sit down. It is affecting us too much. Mr. Williams, it's hard for me to get to be unemotional about this issue. But when I hear of my members having to break down in tears after these incidents, are affected psychologically, emotionally, which would impact on their delivery of the curriculum, which would impact on morale. Let us get this done, please. I am begging the powers that be, on behalf of the membership, on behalf of TTUTA, let us get this done, please.
Yeah, and I'm hearing the emotion, and rightfully so, because to go to school to teach, or to go to school to be part of the administration and the running of a school, one will never consider that to have occupational hazard issues. Again, to be treating with not only the environment outside the school, but sometimes even parents. I'm watching the scenario out of Karapo RC, where the principal is still on sick leave based on threats being made. She was told, well, bodies will fall, cars pulling up outside the school, circling the area. What's in place? What's the conversation like via TTUTA for teachers who are threatened by sometimes disgruntled parents?
We would always liaise with the Ministry of Education. Whenever we are able to, we will liaise with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to assist in any way possible. As you said, that scenario is not what a person who is contemplating entering into the teaching profession would want to have to face. You would want to be safe heading into your place of work, exiting your place of work, and during the course of the delivery of your curriculum and molding the future of our nation's children as well as the nation. You would want to have a safe environment so that you can tackle some of these, incidents as well too in a safe manner. But when you have to reprimand or discipline, and we're not talking about using corporal punishment, sometimes it is meaningful intervention in terms of counseling. Sometimes you may seem to be harsh. You have to second guess yourself now, because you don't know which parent, which relative, which friend will come for you. And apart from Karapo RC, and we are liaising with the ministry concerning the principal's leave. However, this week we had an incident at Tranquility Government Primary School. It did not involve a teacher, but it involved the school's security guard, someone of responsibility, someone in the compound who is there to serve the occupants of the compound. And that person was threatened as well. They actually broke into the school, was attempting to break into the security booth. And before they left, because they were unsuccessful, they said they will come and light up the place. These threats should not be taken lightly. And though the teachers were not on the compound, the educators, hearing this, they are concerned as well for their safety. And the overall respect and reverence of our institution, which provides education, molding minds, setting the future, giving persons who are needed that advantage in society through education. It's been affected, and where are we going to end up now?
Mr. Lumpkin, let me ask, when a parent goes beyond the boundary in that regard, goes to that particular place, what happens to the child, the daughter or son of that said parent? Is it one that the administration could ask the parent and child to not be part of the school anymore, please, that's it, take your child and go? What's the interaction like really with a child who parent just did something, went to that particular place and that extreme, to come into a school to try to rough up, whether it's be security guard or a teacher, or in the case of Karapo, a principal? I mean, do teachers really still give that child any kind of interest? I mean, we talk about human beings. I probably wouldn't, but then again, I'm not a teacher. What's the policy in that regard?
In that regard, once it is deemed to be a criminal act, a report is made to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. But there's also, in terms of counseling for that child, there's supposed to be intervention. That child should be referred. The the last resort would be suspension. And we too are
So they
very
will suspend the
cautious
child. You're saying they will suspend the child for the parents' action?
No, there has to be level of counseling and level of intervention with that child, because the child would have to go through some traumatic sometimes, and sometimes the child, because of the upbringing, has similar attitudes to the parents. So the school has to intervene in some level. If it is that the child is displaying levels just like the parents, then a higher level of intervention. And if now the child starts to act out, and that's the extreme we're talking about, where suspension will take place. In a lot of instances, the child is an innocent person in the whole scenario. And sometimes the child themselves are embarrassed by the parents or the relatives' behavior. But we are seeing increasingly the child displaying those sort of behaviors, those tendencies, and we will see that when they grow up. So we're seeing it more in the primary school, not only in secondary, but more in the primary school. So that level of intervention has to take place through the referral system, through counseling, through the Student Support Services Division, because again, we are saying that we should not have to wait until law enforcement, the judiciary, or the penal system intervenes or kicks in. At the level of the school, at the level of the community police, at the level of the community itself, where there are supposed to be institutions that support. Intervention should take place there, and there should be support for families, and support meaningful intervention that that are not doing what they're supposed to do. So we have to tackle it at the ground level.
Mr. Lumpkin, if a teacher is compelled to defend themselves, again, I'm talking worst case scenario, parent enters the school, accosts the teacher, hands at the pelt, it ends up in a scuffle, and the teacher is able to defend themselves, and probably they're able to rumple up the said parent. Will that teacher get in any problems at all via the structure and protocols and the template that they're governed by, via, let's say, the ministry, and even what will be TTUTA's position, then the ministry's position in a case like that? Worst case scenario.
Once there's a proper investigation, then it should reveal that the teacher or the educator would have been accosted and would have to defend themselves. If there's any disciplinary action, and I want to say this very clearly, if there is any disciplinary action while a teacher or the teacher is in defending themselves, tutor will defend, once he or she is a member, I must say, we will defend that person right down, because the teacher would have, in most instances, tried to de-escalate the situation. And then if they are physically abused or accosted and they have to defend themselves, and if it is proven that they have to defend themselves, then we will defend them. Even if there is a point where the teacher has to use some level of force, even in protecting other children as well too, because it may not be a matter of just protecting yourself, but protecting your charges as well, then we will be there for our members.
Yeah. As we wrap things up, what do you want to say to your teachers, to the administration, to your members this morning concerning this unfortunate development that's not only happening in Port of Spain by Southeast, but we recognize, look, Carapo, quiet area, other areas where crime and criminality is literally coming right to the doorstep of a place that should be revered. I mean, even within the context of war, schools, hospitals, these are places that are given a particular protection even under the United Nations and their charter. So it should be no different here in Trinidad and Tobago, a little island on this global stage. What's your message to administration, teachers, and your members this morning?
Firstly, that TTUTA is there for them, to support them. We will continue to advocate wherever. We will shout and make our points wherever, in whatever, always in whatever open institution, etc. But to our members, to our educators, We know the sacrifices that you make sometimes. We know the contributions that you make. And we want to urge you to continue the battle, continue to think about your charges. But there must be a time where if it reaches a point where your safety is threatened, your health is threatened, let your association know, and we will continue to advocate. And if there needs to be action, we will support you in whatever action. But we will continue to shout and be your voice in this situation.
President Lumpkin, it would be remiss of me not to ask, before we wrap things up officially, would any of your members be part of that march against violence today hosted by the ministry? Are you in support of that initiative today?
We will support any initiative that will bring to the attention of the public the situation that is taking place not only in our nation's schools, and this is Trinidad and Tobago. We would have spoken about Tobago, Trinidad schools, but increasingly it's happening in Tobago. But we will support any initiative. However, that initiative must be part of a bigger picture, must be part of more intense interventions. And so the ministry having this fine, let us highlight that there should be peace, but there should also be other actions. And if members are taking part of it, unfortunately, we have our annual conference of delegates starting this morning. And so the conference delegates will be engaged in that and not in the march this morning. But we support any initiative.
Thank you, President Lumpkin. All the best, and keep us posted with any development via TTUTA.
Same to you. Thanks very much for having us, and keep up the good work, Mr. Williams. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Indeed, always really, I would say, impactful conversations with myself and President Lumpkin. He gets emotional also, and, rightfully so. He represents a very integral and important sector of the society. We are talking about teachers. And teachers and their role to the development of any society, it is beyond measure. And if they are being impacted, it is a concern for all of us. So, Mr. Lumpkin, thank you for the candor this morning. And we look forward, obviously, to discussions in the future. Let's get ready for another important conversation ahead. This time we are dealing with the impact of domestic violence, surviving domestic violence. A very important conversation.